now that you've got your assignment, parochial vicar, you're going to be there at least for a few years. Looking back at the entire process of when you were getting cold feet going into the seminary, going through the whole thing, what advice do you have for any young people that may be considering religious life?
I would say, so definitely a couple things. Number one, I would say, look, just because you go to the seminary or join a religious order, that doesn't mean that you're saying, okay, I will be here for the rest of my life. I know it for sure. You go to the seminary and you go to, religious community to continue to discern. Mm-hmm. So if you think God might be calling you to be a priest, go to the seminary, right? A lot of guys go to the seminary and leave after a couple of years.
They just try it out.
And they're better men for it, right? Because we grow a lot and there's a lot of formation and you grow in holiness too. So if you feel like you're a little bit unsure, that's okay. But if you think there's a chance, right, go to the seminary. So yeah, just because you go to the seminary doesn't mean, that you're committing to becoming a priest, right? If you think God's calling you, you go to keep discerning. And something that I remember thinking about, while I was in seminary was, the last thing I would want would be to be like a 60 or 70-year-old and think, God was calling me to the priesthood, but I missed it.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you think there's a chance God's calling you, like, go to the seminary. And if you leave after 2 years, hey, you leave after 2 years. And you probably have made a lot of really good, solid friends, holy friends. You've grown in holiness, and now God's not calling you to the priesthood, right?
For sure.
So I would say, that don't be afraid, even if you're not totally sure. Still go. And then I'd also say, I think one thing that, looking back on my own kind of life and discernment, is I think a lot of times for us, kind of taking the first step towards something is the hardest one. And so for me, I think, I didn't want to go on this retreat, so I didn't go.
Yes.
But like finally going in person to meet Father Dat, I was like, okay. And then after taking that initial step out into the unknown, it gets a little bit easier from there, right? Because there's not as much mystery and fear and unknown surrounding it. And so I would say, even if you're really afraid to take a first step, just know that one I think is the hardest. And after that, it does, it becomes less frightening. It's not as, unknown to you. Yeah. So don't be afraid to take the first step. It's really hard, really challenging. And, we can even be afraid or really nervous about it. But it does really, it gets easier. And as you become acquainted with, with this new thing.